I think you were definitely one of the first, if not the first.
I got in at the right time.
I don't think you can fumble to 100K.
I could not replicate this today.
So it was just perfect.
This was not at all planned.
The offer is a complete no-brainer. Like, there's no reason anybody would say no.
So I'm trying my hardest to get this to work.
What in the heck is this?
That was the thing that made these ads finally work.
We ended up being responsible for their whole funnel.
Within a few more months, had scaled it up to over 100,000 a month in ad spend.
Yeah, the percentage of ROAS was interesting. That was quite the learning lesson. And I'm glad we went through that.
We did get several really good clients as a result of this too.
Welcome back to That Agency Show.
That Agency Show.
And today, much different than the other days, we're going to be talking about the agency that took off.
The agency that took off, why it took off,
how it took off,
where it took off,
the fuel we used,
and with whom it took off.
Which is exciting. Last episode was great to go through all of the things we tried without success. So we're going to put a little bow on it by talking about the thing that did have success initially. Not what we're doing currently, but where we first got to feel some serious momentum, getting beyond that 10K to 100K mark, which I think is, personally, I think is a bigger step than the 0 to 10. I think 0 to 10 people can fumble through. I think you can freelance your way to 10K. I don't think you can fumble to 100K. I don't think you can freelance your way and just kind of get to 100K a month. Right. So I think that this to me is more exciting than the 0 to 10. So
you need to have something figured out. Yeah. And this agency ended up selling. So I ended up selling this agency. We'll have a separate episode on that of just what that sale process looked like. But yeah, basically what we're going to talk about today, how this agency grew and what it grew into, is ultimately what somebody ended up buying. They bought this agency from me.
Resell value, which is very exciting. So let's jump into it. What was the niche? What was the agency that grew? Yeah,
so the agency was what I had kind of freelanced my way through for the last 4 years. So it already had a name. It already had a few people working for it. But until I came into this niche and this service, it wasn't really an agency. This is really what made it an agency, looking back on it, in my opinion. So what ended up happening is I made a small pivot from just doing Google ads, pivoted into YouTube ads, which obviously YouTube is owned by Google. The ads are run through the same platform. Ads are very different, of course. On Google, people are searching for something that they need. On YouTube, you're just putting an ad in front of someone who's watching some other video. So a very different type of advertising, but I was familiar with the Google Ads platform. So started doing YouTube ads, specifically YouTube ads for course creators.
Which even like when I was there for course creators, and we were pretty even specific on the funnels, like it was webinar funnels was really the most of what our clients had. Yeah. So it's pretty fair to say that we were doing YouTube ads for webinar funnels.
Over time, not every client was a course creator, but they all did have basically a video funnel, a webinar funnel.
And it was kind of great timing because we definitely caught the rise of ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson really hammering on this and teaching webinar funnels and webinars. So like you got in right when all of this was popping off, which is great.
That definitely played to my advantage. I got in at the right time. I could not replicate this today. Guaranteed I could not restart a YouTube ad agency for webinar funnels today from scratch.
Now I can't say this for certain, but it's probably pretty close that AdLike was the first YouTube ad agency just like serving webinar funnels. There's now competition. There are now multiple agencies that do that, but I think you were definitely one of the first, if not the first.
Yeah, that's what made it so easy at the start. Just talking to people at conferences, it's like, what do you do? And I'd say, oh, I do YouTube ads for course creators. And people from across the room would flock over to me. What did you say? And then they'd all want to have me run their YouTube ads.
Yeah, because even like Russell and like that whole group, like everybody was doing Facebook. Like YouTube just like was not cracked. It was a little overly complicated, I think, versus, I don't know that it was overly complicated. I know that Facebook was simpler. And so people who did have webinar funnels, they were just taught to run Facebook. Facebook had unlimited traffic, like go scale to the moon. But as we know, there is no scale to the moon. There's always a plateau. And so we were catching, in some cases, quite successful funnels who were just plateauing on Facebook and looking for another marketing channel to expand. And so it was just perfect.
I stumbled harder into this than into anything else.
Yeah,
like everything else I had done was planned on at some level. I looked at what someone else was doing and thought, I could do that same thing, or I could do that for a different industry or whatever. And I kind of tried to plan what was going to happen. This was not at all planned. This is an example of me getting in front of ideas, getting myself in front of people, and then recognizing an idea once it slapped me in the face. This was not at all planned. So I want to go through the story of kind of how this came to be, and then how I was able to scale from there. Once it did come to be and I recognized the opportunity here, how did I take advantage of the opportunity? So really what happened is I had signed up for a course, a guy named Dan Henry. He was selling a course on basically Facebook ads for local businesses. His course was about how to start an agency by running Facebook ads for chiropractors and all this stuff. Stuff that I later applied when I was running Facebook ads for local businesses, which I talked about in the last episode. But at the time, I didn't want to do that at all. I really just bought his course because I wanted to learn Facebook ads in general. And I wanted to learn Facebook ads for my own business. And at the time, he had kind of come up really quickly in the ClickFunnels world. He made this course, he had this big personality, and he was posting everywhere about how successful this course was. And he couldn't believe he had this automated webinar funnel, and he was making $100,000 a month and posting all these screenshots of all this success, as one does when they're trying to sell you a course on how to make money.
Of course.
But he was actually doing it, right? He had actually figured out the webinar format. He had a good webinar. He'd figured out the traffic through Facebook ads, and he had a good program. There were people going through his program that were starting these agencies for local businesses and getting to their first 10K a month way faster than I did.
Yep. I remember what he taught in his initial outreach for those people. I did that. I modeled that.
Yeah. And he, to be fair, didn't come up with everything on his own either, but he did a really good job putting it all together and getting people to pay attention to it. So he had a lot of success doing this, running Facebook ads to his webinar. And then from the webinar, he would sell people on his $1,000 course that taught them Facebook ads for local businesses. I bought that course. Shortly after that, he had decided to throw an event, an in-person event. So I decided, okay, I wanted to go to that because I had gotten into his student Facebook group and a lot of cool people in there doing cool stuff. I also had it in my mind that, okay, I wanted to make a similar course, but teaching people Google ads. He was the Facebook ad for local business guru. I thought I was going to be the Google ad for local business guru. Never mind the fact that he's basically has this big personality. He's a big actor. He can get on camera all day and get in front of people. And, that just wasn't me. I was of the mindset, well, if I make a really good course, people are going to come to it and want to learn from me. And yeah, I had some success selling that course, but ultimately I was never the Dan Henry of anything.
You undervalued the impact of circus.
Yeah, I was not a showman like Dan Henry was. But that was kind of in my mind. I wanted to follow this guy, and I thought if he could do it, I could kind of follow a similar path, and maybe I could make a course on Google Ads. So I was kind of following him. So when he was throwing this event, I decided to go down to this event. He also had a house that he had bought that, of course, everybody knew about because he had been showing it off on social media since he bought it. So he was going to have this mastermind at his house the day after his event. So I think it was just a 1-day event. Maybe it was 2 days. But then after that was going to be a mastermind at his house. And it cost however much, a few $1,000s, I think, to go to this in-person mastermind. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm already spending all this money to go down to this event and stay in a hotel. I'll spend a little bit extra to go to his house and mastermind, knowing and hoping that this will at least get me a little FaceTime with him. Maybe he can teach me how to make a course like he has. Maybe I could run ads for him, which to me at the time didn't even make sense that I would think that, because Google ads would not have been good for what he was doing. And I didn't know how to run YouTube ads at the time. So my idea was I could take his webinar viewers and retarget them with Google display ads. That was the only tool that I had in my belt at the time. Cool event. Went to his house afterwards, and there were probably like 20 people there, which is cool. We kind of went around the room, each talking about our businesses. He kind of came up with the idea that I had already had of, oh, hey, you could just copy what I've done with this Facebook ad thing, and you could make your own course for Google ads for local businesses. Yeah. And at the time I was like, oh, cool. He's given me permission to copy him. Yeah. As if I needed permission for one, or if I even could copy him, which I couldn't because I didn't have his personality.
But also like ratified in the idea and everything.
At some point during the day, when people were just kind of mingling, I got my chance to talk to him a little and gave him this sloppy pitch on like, oh yeah, you should let me run Google display ads for your course. Because I just wanted him to work with him on some level. I wanted him as a client, just wanted to figure out how to work with him. And he was basically just like, oh yeah, man, that's cool. Like, hey, do you want a drink? And then just kind of redirected me over. He was done talking to me. He realized very early on that I didn't really have anything to offer him at the time. And there were probably more interesting people there for him to talk to, right? Which was the truth, right? So made the most of that event, got in front of him. From there, that was the end of it, right? There was no follow-up. There was no me talking to him again. But what happened is I stayed kind of active in his student group. So I'm sure he saw my name here and there. He had an issue once with his YouTube channel. The issue had something to do with he was trying to change the URL for his channel because it was stuck on some old thing that he wasn't doing anymore. So he was trying to change the URL to his channel. Something that I had just done myself. So he posted on Facebook that he wanted to do this. It just happened to be that my wife and our 2 kids at the time were like out of town doing something. I was home alone for some reason. I don't even remember why. It like rarely happens. Yeah. I was home alone, so I never really work in the evenings. But because I was waiting for them to get home later that night, I was actually like on my computer and could work that evening. Mm-hmm. So he posted this thing. He was looking for help with his YouTube channel. I immediately sent him a message like, hey, I can help you with this. He's like, cool, can we get on a call right now? So then got on a call with him right then and there. And again, this never could have happened if it wasn't the 1% of the time when my family was gone in the evening. Right. So just totally random luck that I could even jump on that call in the first place. So I get on the call. I couldn't actually help him with his problem because there was there was some difference between like a personal YouTube and a brand YouTube or something.
Right.
And I couldn't help him figure out how to change his URL. But then he got into like, oh, hey, you do Google ads and YouTube ads, right? And I said, well, I do Google ads. I don't really have experience with YouTube ads. And at that point I had dabbled in it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd set up a couple campaigns like for myself, probably nothing really significant. Right. So I told him like, yeah, I wouldn't say I have experience with YouTube ads. I know Google ads, it's the same platform. I don't think I can help you with YouTube ads. And he was like, well, if it's the same platform, you can probably figure it out, right? If you already know Google ads. Like I don't have the time to do them myself. And I've tried hiring a couple people and no one's really been able to get it to work anyway. So would you want to like give it a try? And I was like, sure, I can give it a try.
So he pitched you on YouTube ads.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yep. He decided it wouldn't hurt for me to try it because other people had tried it. No one was going to get it to work. So yeah, so I said, sure, I'll try it and see what we can do. So after that conversation, it was still like a while. Like it didn't start right away. It was still probably a month of me having to message him a few times like, hey, do you want to get started with that? Till he finally gave me access to his account. He already had ads and all this stuff set up. And gave me access to his account to try to run the ads for him. So I started running these ads, doing the best job I could, trying to bring people into to opt in for his webinar. And it was not working. I was getting some people were opting in, but it was costing like, I don't even remember exactly, like $50 an opt-in or just some obscene amount that would never work. And every day I'm trying to get this to work, trying to get it to work. It just wasn't working. I'm hoping like he doesn't actually notice that it's not working. Because I'm thinking like the next time he sends me a message is going to be like,
shut the ads off.
Hey, yeah, let's shut this off. This doesn't seem to be working. So I'm trying my hardest to get this to work, going through all the training I could, all the YouTube videos. But this was like 2018. Nobody really knew how to run YouTube ads at the time. There were maybe a handful of people and they weren't really giving up their secrets. Mm-hmm. Finally came across this course by the name of a guy, Tommy Powers. Yeah. And it was basically, he had done an in-person event and filmed it, and then that's what this training was. And went through all this whole in-person event, all the footage of it. Finally came to the one little nugget that was going to help me save Dan Henry's YouTube ads. The little nugget being, well, you can just target placements. You can just target specific videos to run the ad on. Because there's different types of targeting. You can target, at the time anyway, you could target keywords or audiences, or you could put in specific videos to run the ad on.
Right. You could do videos or channels or...
Yeah, which can be hard because to get enough traffic, you need to be targeting a lot of different videos on YouTube ads. But this was like the last thing for me to try. I had tried everything else. And in this course, Tommy Powers was saying like, this is the best type of targeting that I've ever done is placement targeting. And then it gets worse from there. Spent some time and had at least one other person in my company researching all these placements. So we were going onto YouTube, typing in anything we could think of related to like running Facebook ads or starting an ad agency, and copying the URLs of those videos and then putting those into a placement targeting campaign. And did that. And that was it. That was the thing that made these ads finally work. So started to get opt-ins for under $10, which means that when he was selling his course, he was starting to make a 2x return on the ad spend. After a few weeks or a month of that, of actually running the YouTube ads profitably, that's when I met with him again, like, hey, let's talk about what's going on here. Showed him the ads, and I think we were only spending a couple $100 a day at the time, maybe $100 a day. I was like, yep, here's what's going on. You're getting opt-ins for less than you're getting them on Facebook. You are getting a 2x ROI on your course. And he's looking at it. He's like, yeah, this looks pretty good. Like, could we spend more on this? And I'm like, yeah, I think we can spend more. Like, how do you want to? At this time, I hadn't asked him for money, hadn't set up anything.
You had no agreement or anything.
Yeah, I had no agreement. There was no expectation because I told him right up front, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. So I'll give it a try. If it works, we'll figure something out. So now we're at the point where it was working and we needed to figure something out. And he actually came up with the idea of, well, what if I just pay you a percentage of the profit that this generates? So we'll take whatever the ad spend is and whatever I make in course sales, and I'll just pay you 10% of the profit. And I said, that sounds great. I still, at this point, didn't even care how much I was going to get paid. I was like, yep, that sounds great. Because I just wanted to keep running these campaigns. From there, like within the next month, I had scaled up the campaign. So now we were spending over $1,000 a day, which was mind-blowing to me at the time that anybody was spending this much on advertising. Because I was used to people running Google ads for like $1,000 a month. Yeah. So I was like, this is great. And it was like a 2x ROAS. So he started to pay me like a few grand a month, which was also great. And we were scaling, and I kept learning more and more about YouTube ads. So now we kept scaling with the placement targeting, but now the algorithm was starting to work in our favor. So now I was able to use other types of targeting and was really able to keep scaling the campaign. Within a few more months, had scaled it up to over $100,000 a month in ad spend, and still profitable, still like a 2x ROAS. Yeah, that led to the next spring. So I started running his ads in the fall of 2018. The spring of 2019 is when I got my first $10,000 check.
Literal check.
He had his accountant or assistant or someone would generate checks for like all of his team members, of which I was considered one. So yeah, so he'd send me physical checks in the mail, which was fine. This one came for $10,000, and I was just like, okay, like I've made it. This feels crazy that someone just paid me $10,000 for 1 month's worth of work. Mm-hmm. And it was a month of like from 2 months ago, because it was kind of, we had to calculate returns, so the payments were kind of delayed. But that was really cool. In the meantime, then he had started to pivot. So he had kind of started to exhaust this market of people wanting to start a Facebook ad agency. He had now started to pivot into a higher ticket mastermind where he was teaching people how to sell a course. So he was taking what he had done, selling his course, and now he created a course on how to sell courses.
Mm-hmm. As you do.
As anyone who's ever sold a course should do.
Yep. Or has done.
Yeah. But again, like he did a good job with his program. He had a great program for teaching people how to sell a course, but it was a lot different because now he's selling it with a sales call. So now he has a funnel that's bringing people to a sales call, and then he's selling them a course for, at the start, it was, I think, $5,000. And then I think he got it up to $10,000 and probably even more before he stopped that. But he had kind of pivoted to that. He was still doing the course that I was running ads for, but that had started to dwindle. Like we were only able to spend 6 figures a month for a few months. Mm-hmm. And then it started to become less and less profitable, had to spend less and less until eventually he basically closed that course down. He sold it off to somebody else, but he wasn't really running ads for it anymore. But in the meantime, he had scaled up this mastermind on how to sell courses. So I was also running ads for that. My second kind of experience running YouTube ads to in that case, it was just a video sales letter that would lead to booking a call.
Right.
In the midst of all this, then I approached him like, hey, this is going great. I love running these ads for you. Do you think your students would be interested in this? Now that you're teaching people how to sell a course, do you think anyone else would be interested in this? He's like, yeah, absolutely. Let me film you a testimonial. I'll post in my student group of my course, and I'm happy to help you out. So did that and had several people like right away reach out to me.
Do you ever have an affiliate agreement with him? Like, did you ever kick him back anything?
No, there was never an affiliate agreement. What I did do is basically offer to teach YouTube ads to his students.
Okay.
Yep. So I supplied content for his group, basically taught how to run YouTube ads. But just like anything else, people don't really want to run their own YouTube ads. So that's why a lot of people just ended up coming to me.
Yep.
So that was really the start of the business. The whole idea for running YouTube ads came from Dan. He basically told me to try YouTube ads, even though I had never done it. The whole pricing model came from Dan because he just suggested the percentage of profits, which sounded great because I knew there was a lot of profit potential in this.
Yeah.
And then, he helped me get my next clients in that niche.
And even aside from him helping you with that, like what a powerful like niche down and offer, right? Like I run YouTube ads for course creators, webinar funnels, and I work off a percentage of your profit. So I get paid off of your profit. So if you don't make any money, you don't pay me. So you're super specific of what you do, who you work with, and the offer is a complete no-brainer. Like there's no reason anybody would say no.
And that was part of the problem, is that it was so easy to sign up clients because they weren't paying me anything.
Yeah.
So everybody wanted to work with me. A lot of people, quote unquote, became a client, but then I just never ran ads for them because they never made videos, never did any of this stuff. So that was kind of frustrating. Yeah. We did get several really good clients as a result of this too. Clients who were even more profitable than Dan. Yeah. Again, that was like beginning of 2019. Started to get some referrals from Dan. He paid me that $10,000 a month, and that happened a few times until that kind of started to, go down in value. But still had him as a client for a while. The mastermind wasn't as profitable as the course sales for him. Because there are other expenses involved in running a mastermind too. Started really niching down, seeing the potential. And this is when I decided I really needed more help. And this is when I hired the woman who would become the client support person who would communicate with all the clients. And that's really when I think I can say I had an agency, is when I had a handful of clients now that I was running YouTube ads for. They all had webinar funnels. And then I hired someone to talk to those clients.
And she was not just, like we were talking about before in earlier episodes, like she was not just following SOPs, like she just took that from you and like she started communication and communicated in her own way, and which was great for clients. Mm-hmm. And it gave you that insulation to just kind of work in your genius. And she was very talented at that side of things.
Yeah, she had much better communication skills than me. I couldn't have trained her how to talk to a client if I wanted to. Yeah. Like she shouldn't have ever listened to me.
As she always said, my job is to translate nerd. And so she would take what you say or the media buyers would say, and she would like go talk to the clients as a human and like with that information and not in the way that we would info dump on them.
For a while then, I was doing the media buying, and then I was also doing the sales calls. But I started to do them with her. Yeah. And it wasn't too long before I just got out of the sales calls. And she just did the sales calls and the support. Yeah. The sale was so easy. right? We weren't asking anyone to give us any money. It was, we're going to run your ads. If and when they're profitable, you pay us a percentage of the profit.
Yeah.
So the sale was easy. So it was an easy transition for her because she didn't have much experience in sales, and didn't need much experience in sales because it was such an easy sale. She gained a ton of experience and is really good at sales now. So pretty quickly she was able to not just take over the customer support side, but she was able to take over the sales side also. Yeah, so that was basically a year from when I started running ads for Dan until when I hired her. And in that year, I had gone from about 10,000, maybe a little less. I don't think I had stabilized above 10,000 a month at that point. I had gone from about 10,000 a month to about 20,000 a month because of focusing on YouTube ads. And by now I was also done with Fiverr.
Right.
That had fizzled out a while ago, and I was kind of doing the Google Ads thing, just relying on referrals at that point. So I was done with Fiverr. It was really just these Google Ads retainer clients that I was working with. And now I started taking on a lot more YouTube Ads clients. And the pricing model worked out pretty well to get this thing up and going. We were able to take on a lot of clients. Some of them actually got started and started running ads and made videos. And at the start of this too, I really did have to rely on the client to make videos.
Were you scripting ads for them, or are you just telling them to make ads?
I was doing nothing. I was saying, I need ads. Here are some examples of other ads that work. Make me some videos. You need to be in a video telling people to go register for your free training. Is basically what they had to do. A fairly small percentage of people that we had a sales call with really made it that far even, but enough of them did. And most of those had some success. Like at the time, if you had a decent video targeting the right people, you could get people to go opt in for your free training. And opt-ins weren't that costly. It was like $5 to $10 an opt-in, no matter what the industry was. Had a good number of clients. That kept growing. I stayed involved with Dan's group, updated my training for him because YouTube ads is constantly changing, which is really bad if you're trying to sell a course on Google ads or YouTube ads.
Yeah.
Like, the platform just changes so much. But I was getting all these clients, so I just kept updating the training that I had in Dan's group. Like early 2020, Dan was going to be throwing an event for his courses training. He was going to bring in course creators, throw a big event, teach people how to create and sell an online course. And he had me on the lineup to be one of the speakers at his event. I think the event was in April of 2020. And we all know what happened in February and March of 2020. So the event got canceled. And I never made it to his event to be a speaker at his event. He never did it again, never tried to do it again.
I didn't know that. So you're a potential keynote speaker.
Man, I could have been such a big keynote speaker.
Man, our roles could have been reversed if that event went on.
So that didn't happen. But early 2020, I decided I was going to really commit to running a YouTube channel and to getting clients that way. I kind of had a YouTube channel where I was teaching Google Ads. A lot of it was me screen sharing the Google Ads platform and like showing buyers. People what to do.
Yeah, great for me.
Yeah, so I saw there were other people, Dan Henry included, who were running YouTube channels that people were actually watching, and he was actually getting clients from his YouTube content. So I decided I should be doing this, especially now that I had something to talk about. I think that's the biggest thing, is now I could talk about YouTube ads, and I could specifically talk about YouTube ads for course creators. Yeah. But even at the time, like nobody was talking about YouTube ads.
Yeah.
So I planned out a bunch of content around just YouTube ads, planned out content around YouTube ads for courses, for info products, and committed to publishing a video per week for at least a year. And that's what I did. I hired a video company, came in to this studio actually that we're in right now. This same company filmed me making all these YouTube videos. I obsessed over the details and did like 3 takes of each sentence. And I'm sure the editing was a nightmare, but really tried to make these really good YouTube videos and came out with some really good videos, caught the attention of a lot of people, was able to, in every video, really pitch my agency as doing YouTube ads for course creators. So when the referrals from Dan kind of dried up, I was now getting clients just from the YouTube channel. I was getting a lot of clients coming in from the YouTube channel because they'd be on YouTube looking for something related to YouTube ads or something related to selling their course. And then they'd come across my videos. And in every single video, I told them to go fill out our application to work with AdLeg to become a client. I felt good and proud about that. You know, those videos caught the attention of even like Frank Kern.
Yeah.
Came across my videos and reached out and was like, oh, I watch your videos all the time. And
you had a whole persona and everything. Like it was cool. It got my attention. Like, yeah, they were great.
The problem with those is like they really drained me. I was really acting in those. I was really going over the top, you know, not like I wasn't being someone else. I was just pushed it to the extreme of my personality, which is really exhausting for me. And then coming up with all these different ideas for YouTube videos is also pretty exhausting, but it was the lifeblood of that business for a while. Yeah. So I had committed to doing it for a year. I actually made videos for at least a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. I was posting weekly videos, and it was fun. You know, I had fun making some of the videos. It was just got to be exhausting.
Yeah.
Back up again. So I started making those videos like summer of 2020. The fall of 2020 then is when I hired you. Mm-hmm. So I was getting mentored by somebody that summer, and he was looking at my numbers, and he was basically asking me, okay, so you're managing how many clients right now? Okay, and how many clients could you be managing? And basically got me to realize that me running ads, I was at my limit. I couldn't effectively take on one more client, really. Right. Even though I was trying, and I was just burning myself out trying to do this. So he got me to realize that if I really wanted to scale, because my goal at the time was to get to 100,000 a month, and I was doing about 30,000 a month at that point, because about 20 to 30,000 a month at that point. If I wanted to scale to 100,000 a month, I needed to stop media buying. I needed to stop running everyone's YouTube ads, and I needed to find people to do that.
Yeah.
So that got me to put out a call. So I had built up an email list on the back of my YouTube channel and the back of the Facebook group that I had started before. So I built up an email list, mostly just a bunch of media buyers, but a lot of business owners on that list too. And was somewhat successfully utilizing that email list to get more clients. Because I had some lead magnets. I don't remember what they were, but I had some lead magnets to bring people into the list, just talking about YouTube ad tricks. I think it was like YouTube ad scripting frameworks was my main lead magnet. Like here's how to script a video for a YouTube ad.
You had different examples of the different hooks and...
Yeah. Yeah. Because by then I had finally figured out scripting. I had just found people who had been running successful ads and broke down their frameworks and put together a lead magnet around that. Frank Kern is actually who convinced me to like start sending more emails, because I rarely emailed the list. He's like, yeah. And he was on my list. He's like, I don't think I really get any emails from you. Like, yeah, it's because I don't really send any emails. He's like, you should be emailing your list like once a day at least. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, well, I guess I better hire someone for that, because I wasn't about to write an email every day. So I did hire someone for that. Started sending out emails every day. I was getting more and more clients from that, which was cool. And then because I was sending all these emails, now I could send out an email that basically said, hey, I'm hiring media buyers. Are you interested? So put out that call. You came in, got a lot of people applying, interviewed a bunch of people, ended up hiring you and another experienced media buyer, and then another kind of junior media buyer. Mm-hmm. Now you, and I didn't even really know this at the time, you weren't really that experienced of a media buyer.
No, and it was really funny because the application process was like, build out a campaign in whatever, a Google ad account or whatever. And I literally just went on your YouTube channel and just like followed your campaign build video and just did it exactly step by step.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted. I wanted someone who could build campaigns like I was building them. Mm-hmm. And there were just a lot of garbage campaign builds that came through. And then yours was exactly how I would have built it. I was like, okay, this is great. Let me hire you. If I wasn't an agency yet, I was definitely an agency at that point. Yeah. Because now I had people working with clients and doing sales, and I had people doing the media buying. And now I was really just overseeing everything and putting out content and doing all of the more high leveraged activities. And that was, fall of 2020 is when I hired you. We definitely got to a point where the way we were charging became really exhausting.
Yeah, the percentage of ROAS was interesting. I think we're going to talk about it even more in a future episode, but I think it's definitely worth noting on today. Percentage of ROAS was, there were certain clients where we probably spent as much time running their media in a month as we did having to calculate the ROAS and justify and send them an invoice and justify the invoice than anything else. It became quite the work.
Yeah, there'd be all this back and forth of like, okay, look, these are all the sales that our campaign generated for you last month. And then they'd be like, oh, this guy didn't come from the YouTube ad campaign, and this sale wasn't from YouTube ads. That person's been on my list for 5 years. Yeah. And it's like, well, yeah, they've been on your email list for 5 years and they haven't bought anything. They saw the YouTube ad and bought something. Like that's the point here.
And then we just have to like explain what first click attribution is or last click attribution or whatever it might be. And it definitely got messy. Oh my gosh, I remember the first time when you handed me a client. It was the one. It was about acquiring businesses, and it was like a 45-minute loom you sent me about like how to go through the step-by-step that you go through their entire CRM to figure out what to build them in a month. And me going through that being like, what in the heck is this? Like, it was just so convoluted and messy. Yeah. It was so funny.
And the first few, Dan Henry and the first few clients, it was 10% of profit was what we were charging. At some point, we moved that up to 15%. I don't remember. Did we get to 20%?
Yeah, we did. We were at 20% at one point.
Yeah, so we were at 20% of profit is what we were getting paid. The other problem with that model is when you have a client who has to pay you $30,000
in a single
for a month of work, they start wondering how they can do this some other way.
They start shopping you to other agencies is what happens.
Yep. So it was a double-edged sword. Either we weren't getting paid very much or we were getting paid too much, and then they were looking for other alternatives.
Yeah, like it's exactly that. It's attracting people who are not making money yet because it's a zero risk agency. Not zero, they have to pay ad spend. But so you're attracting people who are not confident in their funnel mostly. And then anybody who is a baller and crushing it and has their poop in a group, you're scaring them off very, very quickly with sending them a $30,000 invoice or a $40,000 invoice. So it's just it was perversely incentivized when you look at it kind of as a whole.
Yeah, like ultimately, if we could have just stayed in the sweet spot where every client was paying us $5,000 a month, they would have all just stayed. Yeah. But yeah, once we we either couldn't get to that level for whatever reason, or we would pass that level and now they're looking at someone else who's just going to charge them $5,000 a month or less.
And maybe they'll make 25 grand less with them, or 20 grand less, but they're still saving money.
So we did get to $100,000 a month with the percent of ROAS model. So that was cool. But we weren't able to stay above, just like when I got to $10,000 a month, I couldn't stay above $10,000 a month. Yeah. This was especially true charging a percentage of ROAS, and the swings were very dramatic. Yes. I'd go from $120,000 a month to like a $70,000 a month. It was just real shaky. So, and the problem with that is you build this agency and this infrastructure kind of counting on the fact that you're going to keep growing and that you're going to keep doing $100,000 a month. So once you have that $70,000 a month, it's like panic mode. Yeah. Even though a year earlier that would have been crazy to have a $70,000 a month.
But your expenses grow with your revenue, right? So when you have that $70K month, it's like, what is the profit? Like, is there even a profit when you have that much staff or whatever? So
we did at one point then switch from the percentage of ROAS model to just a flat retainer model, which at that point we had a lot of testimonials. Mm-hmm. We had figured out the sales process. Yeah. So obviously not as many people were saying yes on the sales call, but people were saying yes. And then they were actually following through because now they've actually paid us money.
Like we were collecting deposit on the sales call up front. Like, I don't even think that started right away, but that's eventually where we got to. Because even when people were paying a monthly retainer, it was a lot easier for ads and stuff, yes, but it still was kind of hard to get the ball rolling. So once you started collecting some sort of deposit on the sales call, it was great. Because it's not even just ads, it's like getting systems and all this kind of stuff. So once you force somebody to skin into the game, it's a lot easier. And we got to stop having to negotiate with our best clients who felt like they were getting ripped off all the time, and just like going to these guys who are paying these huge invoices and going, hey, we're just going to flat retainer you at, $9,000 or whatever it was. Which felt good, which felt really good.
Yeah.
Until they had a shitty month and they wanted to reduce the retainer, but we had to overcome that.
Yeah, because we had a tiered retainer system. So it was based on how much they were spending. But there were only a few tiers. It was like 5,000 and 9,000 and I don't know. There were only a few tiers.
369 or something like that.
Yeah, that's $3,000 or $3,500 a month was like the minimum at that point. I had gone far beyond the $30 per month that I first charged some of my first clients.
That pet groomer got a deal.
Yeah. So now we were able to charge $3,500 a month minimum, up to $9,000 a month. So these clients who had paid us $20,000 or $30,000 a month, of course, they're happy because now we're only going to charge them $9,000 a month until, once in a while they'd have a bad month. But for the most part, that worked out very well because while we weren't scaling anymore, because we'd kind of hit that plateau at 100,000 or so per month, at least now it was becoming consistent, where we weren't having $50,000 swings from one month to the next. It was very consistent. We'd be up some months, down some months. But yeah, clients were staying for longer, and we were getting to keep our best clients who were the most fun to work with because we were getting them the best results. Yeah. So we were able to hang on to them because now we're actually charging them a little bit less. And yeah, it was a great agency.
It was so nice too, because even like on percentage of ROAS, like we ended up being responsible for their whole funnel, right? Like it's one thing, it's like we're running ads, but if their sales closers have a bad month, even if everything else is in line, but the closers had a bad month, we had a bad month. And we would have to spend so much time pointing these things out and like tracking, like our KPI sheets. It was not just tracking ad performance and landing page opt-ins. It was like ad performance, landing page opt-ins, conversion from VSL to application conversion to sales call conversions into sales and returns. And if any of those numbers went awry for a month, we paid for it on ROAS. And so we'd spend so much time dealing with clients and being like, the issue is not the ads, the issue is your sales this month, or the issue is you changed and added 25 questions to your application, so your sales team got half the amount of calls, or you overhired sales and forced us to double ad spend and cost per lead went up. Where when we're just responsible, like we're on a retainer, like we can really keep them in check what we're responsible for and what they're responsible for, because we weren't getting paid. We were getting paid for just what we were responsible for.
Right.
And that was quite the learning lesson. And I'm glad we went through that, because not only is my keynote about it, but it definitely gave me a bigger appreciation for the entire funnel and the entire business that these people were running, like what a webinar funnel business actually includes and all the steps.
So yeah, along the way, really stopped doing Google ads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We just had one client when you sold AdLeg. There was only one Google ad client.
Yeah, something like that. I definitely stopped taking on new Google ad clients a long time before I sold the agency. Just had a few kind of legacy clients who were still hanging around. And really, yeah, by the time I sold AdLeg, it was just focused on YouTube ads for course creators. I had a solid team. You know, it's nice too for the team knowing exactly what they're doing. Yes. You can have media buyers in a much more systemized way of running ads if you only have one type of client. If you only have one type of client, your client support people know what to talk about all the time. They don't have to learn a new business every time you get a new client. They kind of already know the business. They don't have to learn, oh, now we have a lawyer, so now I need to learn how to run, what does a lawyer need from us in their ads? Right. And now we have a
e-commerce brand.
Yeah. So what do they need from an ad company? Mm-hmm. It's like they already know, and same with sales. Like we already know what our target customer wants and what they need. So now we can sell it to them, we can deliver on it, and we can talk to them intelligently about it because we're talking to 20 other clients about the same thing.
And we have metrics and we can give projections and all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. Where it's like the CMO conversation in the last episode, like there was none of that. There was no baseline. And so everything was just kind of in the air and who knows. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was great.
Well, along with that growth came the inevitable plateau. Mm-hmm. I had done the same thing when I plateaued at $10,000 a month. I'm pretty sure every agency owner ever has plateaued somewhere.
More money, more problems.
You have, I think, kind of two choices to make there. Either you're going to power through it and figure out how to keep growing, or you're going to look inward and figure out how to just stay where you are, but now maximize profit. Because usually right before you hit the plateau, you've just hired some people and you've taken on these other expenses thinking you're just going to keep growing. Yep. So then when you do hit the plateau, you're not prepared for it at all. You're not making money because you've hired ahead of where you actually were.
Well, and by definition, plateau comes after growth. So you're building and in a growth phase and hiring and trying to keep up with your business to stagnation and having to react to that and start like cutting all of the growth investments that you'd been making.
So let's cut this episode here. And then on the next episode, we'll talk about the challenges of scaling an agency and hitting that plateau.
We didn't talk about the most important thing though.
Which is?
Joining thatagencygroup.com.
That agency group.
That agency group.
The number one group on the internet.
It's literally the number one agency group on the internet.
No, the number one group of anything.
That's true. Yeah. I think it's true as long as we say it. And everybody should join that and give us some feedback because we'd love to know, how we could serve you better. And next week, which really means tomorrow when we start recording again, we are going to go through the challenges and what happened, how we plateaued, changes we tried, things we may have failed at, some words of wisdom we got from a guru we definitely looked up to and still do, and where we went from there.
That is all next week on That Agency Show.
On That Agency Show.
In the meantime, In the meantime, go to That Agency group and join our group.
Stay up to date.
And we will see you there.
Bye.